source CMS that we built in React at the company I work with. It's really cool. We'll get to it. But before we get to there, I thought that was, oh, sorry. I thought my slides, so all the slides are on bazaar.netlify.com. So if you want to see these after the fact, clickable links and everything. Bazaar being the company building that we're in. But I want to talk about Kanye real quick. I don't know if you guys noticed the Kanye sticker right here. I tend to talk about him a lot. I'm apologetic for Kanye. He's really a good guy at heart. So back in 2004, Kanye came on the basically in the game. He used to write beats for like Jay-Z and other people out in Chicago, and then moved to New York to join why did this blank out? Well, Rockefeller? No. What's Jay-Z's label's name? It doesn't matter. Anyway, so what he did is that he changed the game, basically. He had this thing called backpack rap. Is anybody familiar with rapper Kanye West? Is this news? I actually talked about Kanye West in Chicago a couple months ago, and they got everything, so don't feel bad. But yeah, so this backpack rap is basically, they call it conscious rap, so you feel like Common, Talib Kweli. It's like an old school version of hip hop that kind of stayed true to itself while the whole gangster era was happening. So what's really cool is that it's actually pretty mainstream now. Now we have like weirdos like Lil Yachty, but we still have the backpack stuff going on. And at the time that Kanye came up, it was like the do-rag era of rap. So you had to be really hard and gangster to rap. What was really cool about that is that Kanye made it okay to not be gangster and rap. 2004 was the year I showed up. It's my senior year in high school. I'm actually pretty old. I know I look really good for my age. But Kanye actually, he made it okay for people like me to wear their pants at their waist, which was great because my grandma bought my clothes. So what I'm trying to get at is that Kanye made what was actually going on for a long time, he made it more mainstream and made it okay. So keep that in mind. That's what I look like on the internet. I'm BWO on Twitter. I'm from the Bay. I was actually born in Dallas. So part of the reason why I went up there to speak because I was going to visit family. Came down here because there's a meetup here. And so if you want to find anything else about me, it's on that Twitter. Slides, Bazaar. Did I spell that right? Bazaar.netlify.com. All right, let's get down to business. So I'm on a podcast and I work for a company that is all about the JAMstack. Has anybody seen this word before? This term? One person, a couple people. Awesome. So JAMstack basically means JavaScript, APIs, and markup. It's just another word for static. Static is like a term that it gets like a negative connotation. Like people think, oh, I have a static site, I can host it on my computer and run it all day, and that's all I need. Well, when you do like add JavaScript to the mix and stuff like that and get a server running, it puts a little weight on your computer, so you kind of want to host that somewhere like AWS or something else. So we came up with this term called JAMstack to make it easier to talk about what the new front end or the new static or rendered dynamic or dynamically rendered static. People have all these different terms. We just like JAMstack. And what it looks like is that you have like a front end app, and then you have an API server, which is actually getting really popular now. Again, what was old is now new. So this is something that we used to do back in the 90s. It was totally legit to do that. And for some reason, like we forgot that you could just host like simple static sites up there. But it's okay. I don't fault you guys. So like we separate the stuff together, and that's at the heart. That's what JAMstack is. And did anybody as a kid, did your mom buy you this? So this is like a monolithic architecture. So you have like jelly or jam and peanut butter in the same jar. That's totally cool. Like isomorphically rendered JavaScript apps. That's what this is. Totally fine. Some people, you might have a coupon for that. Your mom got it in bulk or something. I'm not a big fan. I like having my jam and jelly separate. So this is this is the jam architecture. We separate the API and the client. So I'm from the Bay Area. There's actually a really big trend of people doing this. I just had a GraphQL talk for Airbnb, who was like a monolithic Rails app. They recently now are starting to separate their stuff with JSON and send it to a GraphQL layer. There's a really good talk on the GraphQL SF meetup that they just did a couple weeks ago. I highly recommend checking it out. It's the best way to go about this, especially if you want to try other things like GraphQL and change your front end, like I just did. So last year, I was actually hired at Netlify, which is the company I work for, to convert their Angular code to their React code. And I literally just did this. I didn't touch any of the API. I was hired to write Go code, but they needed a lot of React help, and I had React experience and Angular experience. So they're like, can you just do this? And I was like, oh, cool. And I would just flip back and forth, check the front end, based on the old old client, check the front end based on the new client. It was actually really easy to do. Took about 6 weeks, 3 weeks to do it, and 3 weeks to fix it. But collectively 6 weeks. So it's nice, and I'm all about spreading the jam. So a little bit of history. So back in the 90s, we used to do like HTML sites, and then we would just get a website on the screen. Super awesome, very easy. It was nice to like steal people's like at that time. Basically, the HTML you did you didn't Command J U, but you can view source. Back in the day in Netscape, that's how I learned the web. And you had a structure that looked like this, which is just a bunch of flat files, index.html, and you had a bunch of files and your CSS, and you just point to it. Perfectly legit way to write an app. And there's no shame in this as well. Like, it's okay. And then we got all this CSS and JavaScript, and then JavaScript had to take over, which is really, really sad. But, it's good for us because now we have React. And then after that, like before the time of now, we had all these weird like CMSs that came out of the random places like WordPress, Drupal, Joomla. I don't want to shame anybody a WordPress developer out here. Yeah, why would you be here? But yeah, so WordPress kind of took over, and the thing like CMSs kind of got like a weird taste in a lot of developers' minds, because then it was just like the race to the bottom and then the race to the top, because like WordPress development's like $75,000 like for contract or something like that, and WordPress is obviously not JAMstack, so I'm not a fan. And this is like our modern day website architecture. Like if you have a WordPress site, you have a client, you have a web server, you have an app server, and then you have a database just to host a blog. It's a lot. And then that's like what our monolithic app is. So like every time you I don't know if you guys install a WordPress client locally, but it's a bit of work unless you do that like DigitalOcean, like one-click install or Bluehost. Yeah, so not fun because we're all React devs and we just want to do React code. So WordPress, no. So let's talk about today. So the company I work for, the CEO started this company. It was like a 2-person operation a year ago, and then he hired me, and it was like 3. We're 20 people now, but he wrote a blog post about the rise of the static site generator, and he compared. So this is a look of Smashing Magazine, what it looks like today. You guys familiar with Smashing Magazine? Awesome content. If you're a front-end dev, definitely check it out. It's all long-form, like in-depth articles about anything you need to know about front-end development. Smashing Magazine's built on WordPress, and he rebuilt Smashing Magazine in the JAMstack and then showed them how fast it was. And at the time, Smashing Magazine had an architecture where they had like a shop, a monolithic shop. Like these are all monolithic applications that talk separately. And then they have like a job board, stuff for the conference because they were like a traveling conference as well. And then of course the WordPress magazine. So this had a lot of monolithic architectures that never talked to each other. So when he did that, you guys ever look at performance numbers on your sites or anything like that? See like time to first byte, see how long it hits the server. You should definitely check it out. Performance.security.net are where these come from. So this is what Smashing Magazine looks like coming from a CDN. Pretty awesome for Americans getting Smashing Magazine because it's really fast for them. Not so awesome for people in Japan and Singapore. I don't know, like no love. They don't have servers over there. I don't know what it is. But so that's what it looked like when he switched it over to a JAMstack architecture and then threw that front-end code on a CDN. That's how fast it goes. And again, just talking straight to the API. Pretty cool. So anybody ever use build tools besides Webpack? And does anybody use anything? Okay. Webpack. There's other stuff besides Webpack nowadays. These kind of came up in the scene. What's really cool about these tools is that you could do this really cool thing of writing static bundled output. It's like Webpack. It just bundles down to static flat files. Super easy to host on a CDN. Similar to like Create React App, it's got like a built-in like npm run build. You have a bundled output that's actually like it's actually a lot of KBs. It's last time I checked was like 45 out of the box. Well, that's actually not a lot. You guys probably have way bigger apps like megabits, but yeah. So definitely, what I was getting at is these bundle the static. And this is what I'm talking about now. What's old is now really hip and cool. So anybody use the static site generator? Cool. So these things are really cool. I'm actually surprised on how little people use these for things like blogs and portfolios and stuff like that. This is like definitely the go-to. Like I met someone who built his blog in Ember, and like he spent the entire time building like Ember code to make sure his blog worked, and never wrote any blogs. What's cool about this is this is static out of the box, and you can just throw a site up together, which is really cool. And you can actually do stuff other than blogs. You actually really get to work. Yeah, I'll take a drink. So I'm going to talk about the Netlify CMS. And what's cool about Netlify CMS, it actually makes it really easy. So you don't have to do a WordPress site. What you could do in WordPress, you can do all with our CMS. And that's what it is. It's an open source CMS, so all code is open. We are accepting contributions pretty actively. It's a Git-based CMS, so meaning that it uses Git as a backend and a CI. So everything, if you have a static site generator, it's all Markdown files. Every time you change a Markdown file, we'll deploy a new change using Netlify CI system. So this is like, Netlify's bread and butter is actually hosting, but we build a lot of tools around for building a workflow and a more broad solution. So this is like our side project, which we're actively looking for contributions. So when our CEO converted Smashing, they came back to us and said, hey, we really like what you did. Could you just build this? Like, could we make this a thing? But by the way, we want a CMS. And so we asked if we could just open source it, so that way we didn't have to maintain it forever, because our bread and butter is actually hosting, not CMSs. So yeah, this is the result of that. So definitely check it out. And that's what it looks like. Does anybody use like a CMS that looks like this? You're right on the left side, you see the preview of the Markdown cotton on the right. When I first got into development, Ghost had just come out, so we kind of took that model of Ghost blogs. Yeah, some heads nodding. So this is like my actual blog. I'll show you in a second when I get to demo time. But my blog, when I write a blog post, I don't send pull requests. I just write in the CMS live in the web browser. It makes it a lot easier because I'm a big fan of like not trying to build a ship while you're trying to sail it. Like my blog is like the place I share content. And if I spend all my time like tinkering with the code, I'll never write a blog post. So again, going back to that Ember situation where you just wrote code all the time. And Netlify really lives on the fact of continuous integration. So when you push a change, we deploy that change right away. And there's other ways to do it, but we highly recommend that you hook up to Git. And when I say Git, I mean GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub. Like not just GitHub, but everything that does Git-based hosting. So we're all about like sharing our tools across the board. Sorry, these are continuous integration tools like Travis and Circle and Jenkins. Anybody use these things? Who has the longest test suite? Does anybody run test? I guess React, why am I asking it? React doesn't run tests, right? We just write code. That snapshot stuff I was actually checking out. I don't know where you're going to went. Yeah, pretty awesome stuff, actually. I actually used Storybook. Well, I did a whole nother talk on Storybook, so you should look it up if you can find me. BWO. Cool. So all we need is Markdown files for this to work. So wherever you host your Markdown files, this will work, and I'll show you how that works. And as long as you have your client talking to Git, so remember last time I was showing that the API was the thing that you talk to your client. Anything wherever your code lives in Git, that is your API now. So anything you change, there's a nice little like ecosystem growing alongside of this project. So we're actually seeing a lot of really cool tools come up around this. So we're hoping that Git thing changes a little bit. We have some integrations under the hood. Like we don't expose it yet, but like you can use GraphQL and stuff like that eventually. Most people. We try to do most of talking in our GitHub repo. So if you're interested and you want a feature or you have another use case, we're totally fine with you writing the code. I'm just kidding. We're not going to write the code. So that's the website. So as long as you hit Git push to wherever you go, it will trigger the continuous delivery, and then the CDN portion is what Netlify hosts. Like we're a CDN, we're a whole workflow for your hosting your stuff. And what's really cool is you could also talk to third-party microservices. There's a really good blog post that I wrote. Also another blog post that someone else wrote that I copied called Isomorphic Rendering on the Jam. And this guy, he's based out in the UK, works for like a really large agency. He built a site where you could actually get server-side rendering with just the client. So there's no actual server. He uses Contentful as his backend, and he gets like every time you make a change to Contentful, it actually live updates. So there's no server running. You guys ever use Contentful? Yeah, it's a funny story with Contentful. I wrote this whole CMS based on for my last job based on Google Drive, so that way any marketing people can actually just like update a spreadsheet in Google Drive, and then I would parse that every morning at like 1 a.m. and then I would ship a new site. That's basically Contentful. They just do it way better. So yeah, always check to see if someone solved the problem before you go write code. Yeah, I went. We had our engineering meeting. I showed all my code. And I was like, oh, this is really awesome what I did. Like I figured it out. And they're like, oh yeah, this is really awesome, but why not Contentful? And I was like, Content who? Yeah, I was really annoyed. Yeah, and I said this already. So there's some things that you can do to extend the CMS. And one thing being, like this is Netlify.com. So if you look at my blog, which I didn't style anything, like you can style that preview, which is really cool. There's also in our documentation, we're open to people showing other use cases. We ship this really fast, so we don't have tons of examples for extending. But you can like set up that stuff. The documentation shows how you can do just adding YouTube IDs to then have a YouTube video show up as your background and stuff like that. So really cool stuff. Again, like there's a whole ecosystem kind of running alongside this, which is really fun. And I mentioned it's open source, so I think we're up to, as of a couple hours before this, 30 contributors since April, which is good, and then like a ton of stars, which is awesome. Highly recommend if you guys please star the repo. It's good for us, and we have a pretty active Gitter community as well. I don't know, you guys still use Gitter? Yeah, bought by GitLab now, so maybe it'd be like Gitter by GitLab. Who knows what we're gonna do with it, but it's a nice place to have like an open source chat if you don't want to throw up a whole Slack team, because I think Slack's the way to go. And then tomorrow we have a community hangout, so we're actually going to talk about like the future of the CMS and this like talk about use cases and share ideas and stuff like that. So it's all online. Netlify is like we're 40% remote, so that's why it's East Coast time, even though I'm in the Bay Area. The lead architect is actually based in North Carolina, so if you want to meet the team and you have some time at 10 a.m. tomorrow, or wait, Wednesday, definitely check it out. So I was going to do some demos, so I just want to do this real quick. Just show you what the CMS looks like. So this is my website. Well, it's a middleman blog. Any middleman fans out there? No. It's a Ruby-based static site generator. You can actually write Ruby code instead of like Jekyll-ish Ruby. So I have like blog posts and stuff like that. It's super simple. I should really update this. And I have like a really cheesy San Francisco foggy picture. I need to change that. That's really lame. So you didn't see it, but as soon as, they changed it on me. It used to be able to click the picture. I can log in through GitHub, and then it shows me. So if you guys aren't in my GitHub repo, you can't see my CMS. And then this is the editorial workflow. I'll talk about that in a sec. But then I can see all my posts. So I can like edit a post as well, which is super cool. I gave a talk about React and Rails and how to do that. And if I wanted to write a new post, world. Wait, I should do that proper. Mundo. Foo. And I'm going to write a pretty awesome blog post. It's going to publish tomorrow, so just look for it. So I'm going to save this, and I save the CMS, and what it's going to do, it's going to open a pull request on my GitHub. Now, because I have editorial workflow set up, it's done as basically, if you work on teams, it's actually nicer to do this way. So that way, if I go to GitHub, sounds like my computer's taking off. So, oh, I got a pull request. What is it? Oh, it's my blog. Are you serious? Wow. All right, so good stuff. I had to prove it, but I had to do some copy editing. Looks like I spelled something wrong. But I can merge this from here if I really wanted to, and like if there's something wrong, misspelling, people can comment on this. We're looking to add comments inside the CMS. Where are we at? But if I wanted to, I can just, when you go to Waiting Go Live, there's this little publish button. Well, it actually merge and close the PR directly. So imagine like, is anybody like doing copy changes on your websites? It's amazing. Like I used to do this like at least 2 weeks until I figured out how to create a CMS for people, like a CMS that looked like Contentful that we ended up junking after we found out Contentful. But anyway, like I don't want marketing people. I love marketing people; they're the best. But I don't want them to come up and be, "Hey, we changed our slogan. Can you please like like Pied Piper, we're now a chat app. Oh wait, just kidding. We're now the internet. And like every week, everything changes. Like I don't want to go in there. I'm going to say use a CMS. Like write it up. You do it. Like with shipping blog posts, like marketing blog posts. Post this anyway. Sorry, my English is bad. Shipping blog posts is actually easy because now everybody else who doesn't want to write code can now do it through the CMS, which is super awesome. So that's one example. It's not just blog posts as well. So Netlify.com, this is like our marketing site and stuff like that. We have this thing called Site of the Week. So it's what it sounds like. They're like sites of the week that are hosted on Netlify. So cool, Donut.js, which is awesome. What's really cool is that this is very, very little markdown, and it's all front matter. So static site generators are all built upon like front matter. So it's like the YAML looking like stuff that's on the top of your page. Actually, I'll show you here. So all this stuff here is front matter. So like my category all gets saved as that. And this is the markdown. Now with Netlify, when we do like a new site of the week, and the person who does this actually does not code at all. She was like one of our first non-engineers. We're engineering heavy company at Netlify. Let's see. Don't look at any of this stuff. I'm not sure if there's any sensitive information. I guess I'll have to get like a big blur. All right, so where's Donut.js? All right, so in here we created all these, like we extended with widgets. We can have like a list, so like these tool things, or it's a list widget. And to make this styled and everything like that, it's actually looking at the front matter. We use Hugo, which is it's like a Jekyll looking like Go version of static site generation. They just have to, she or anybody who wants to do site of the week can just add all this content that's all pre-populated with empty fields. So if she was actually on vacation in Belize last week, so I did this last week. So I just added all the content, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not a marketing person. A marketeer, is that what they call them? So I can just answer questions. So we do like this weird, like where you can answer these 3 questions and tell us how much you love us and like scratch our back and stuff like that. And so we asked these questions, and this person didn't really give us much information at all. But, it looks like I added a little broken thing in there. But anyway, so I could do all this. I could save it. It can go into PR. People can copy edit it and change it and stuff like that. They merge it. Engineering never knows what happened. Like we're not shipping blog posts. That's a weird thing to do as an engineer. Well, unless you write technical blog pieces. So really cool, and it's all based on front matter and hardly any markdown except for some of these paragraph stuff. So static site generation is like, it's not limited to just blogging. So I'm just trying to kind of iterate like that's what we do. There is, I can't show you that. I'm just trying to think. We're about to announce a lot of things, so I'm trying to think of what not to tell you. And there's one last thing. So this is a really cool site. I was talking to some people out there about it called Slanted Door. It's a restaurant site. It's really expensive Vietnamese food, like way too expensive. Like because you can go right up the hill and get like $2 egg rolls or spring rolls or whatever. And yeah, so my last company, actually the person who told me about Contentful, he had contracted Slanted Door. It's not going to show up, but I can talk about it. He contracted Slanted Door to make him a website, and because Slanted Door is so expensive that they change the menu every day based on like what is like in season and all that other stuff. So they needed a CMS to edit just that content and like gallery photos and like pictures of food and stuff like that. And so he built it on Rails, which was awesome because Rails was super hot then. And I guess it's still kind of hot. So this is a site I made. Actually, my designer made it, and then I put together the CMS on it, and because I don't design. So they built it in Rails, and they said, we're going to contract for 3 months, and that's it. But the problem with restaurants is that everything's always on fire. So they get phone calls like random times at night. They're like, hey, everything broke. Like, you need to come down to the restaurant now and fix this. And it's like, what? Well, internet first. Like, we don't need to go down to the restaurant. But it became a big pain. So I actually give this talk at a more workshop on this at bootcamps because I'm a big fan of bootcamps. I came through a bootcamp, and like between you graduating and you getting a job, you got to have this dead space of like awkwardness where you're just like hoping that someone will say yes. Well, you could build a restaurant site based on this CMS and all code that you know, like in a static site generator based on JavaScript, like Metalman or Spike, or if you like Ruby or Hugo or stuff like that. And you can get basically what they have. It looks like my internet's crazy because this is supposed to be a video, but it's not videoing. But I have a menu where I can like set prices of food. Super simple. You can set up drinks. There's even like a gallery where I can like show pictures. Look at these people cooking. That's crazy. And then you can also take reservations from it. So all this is handled through a static site. This one's based on Hugo, and I'll show you exactly how to do this. Well, you can read the documentation on how to get Netlify CMS in your project. Oh, cool. I didn't know we had a 404 page. Okay, admin. And then internet.
Is your form just free, or what do you use for?
Netlify Forms. So we're building a whole ecosystem. So we have a feature. It is a paid feature today, but it'll be free really soon because we're not really upgrading people to use it. So and it's Forms fee like $5. So we're like, just use us. No reason to add one more thing. So Chinese spring rolls. So let's call these like vegan spring rolls. Oh, sorry. I should probably show you what this looks like first before I changed it. All right. Oh, did it go? All right. Where are my spring rolls? Chinese spring rolls, okay? Everybody hold your breath. No, seriously, hold it. It might not work. All right. So I took off editorial workflow. So if you have that turned off, it'll just ship it live to production. So like, obviously you don't want restaurateurs like going to GitHub. They might not understand. There might be some technical restaurant people. And it should take like some seconds. But if I refresh, if I check my build, good. Oh, it's building. So this is Netlify, basically. This is like all my sites. Wow, the internet's... Is anybody watching the basketball game or something? Like it just started 5 minutes ago, I think. Okay, cool, deployed. So, oh, cool. I guess it's alphabetized. So now it's vegan spring rolls. Boom! That's Netlify CMS. So there's a lot of like tinkering. Well, there's actually not a lot of tinkering. It's literally just adding a React app into your static site app. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick, and then I'll move on to the ending. The ending's really big. So that Hugo site, Hugo, normally like in Jekyll, if you guys are more familiar with that, they'll have like a /site that everything gets built to, or like a public folder. In Hugo, it's site and then static. And all you do is add this admin folder. And inside the admin folder, you add what the CMS is. It's basically a React app. So you have, if anybody's familiar, actually, we're not doing the root ID because we're actually embedding. I forgot. We're actually doing some advanced stuff. So in the documentation, it actually tells you to put the root ID there. And then it points the React app to that ID. We're doing some widget tiering, which the CMS.js. Sorry, I picked a bad one to show you on the fly. But that's just kind of how you add your new, basically React components that are actually widgets. We call them widgets, but they're really React components. So everything is in React. It's Redux in the backend to be able to handle the local data and stuff like that. And yeah, all React inside your static app, which is super cool. So it's not limited to just Jekyll, Hugo, like this Gatsby, which is a React-based static site generator. We actually have the Gatsby guys actually opening a PR for us. It's Mr. Kyle Matthews. Did it get merged? Oh, it might have got merged. I forgot what it was. Oh, no, here it is. He's just improving our Markdown so it works with Gatsby. So I would try it with Gatsby, and if it doesn't work, let me know. Maybe I'll fix it. I don't do contracting anymore. I'm above that. So that's demo time. Oh, slant the door. There's a screenshot of what it looked like. I built a site called templates.netlify.com. So if you just want to tinker with a site that already has a CMS in it. So I have some blogs. I do have that restaurant site up there. And then there's like a marketing site is the first one. You can kind of tinker through it. Open up issues if you have any problems with it. I might fix them. I'll probably fix them. I don't actually write code during the day. I just kind of goof off. So if you send me an issue, I'll probably do it because I have pretty much nothing to do. Just kidding. And those are like the steps because this is a slide for my workshop. But essentially, you just clone from templates.netlify.com, and you can check out the restaurant one or whatever. But yeah, the buttons actually you click, you can see the code, or you can deploy it directly from the page. I do a podcast called JAMstack Radio, so all the stuff I was trying to indoctrinate you guys about the JAMstack, I do more of it in a better fashion with like music. And on JAMstack Radio, I have stickers, so stalk me. My team's playing tonight, so I might sneak out, but hopefully if they're losing, I'll stay. There's also not just Netlify CMS. I think we're the best, so you can try other ones. Just kidding. Headlesscms.org is a site we put together to share like more technologies that are not WordPress to do this. So definitely check it out. And again, bazaar.netlify.com. And I am bdougieyo on the Twitter. Cool. That's Kendrick Warren's, actually in Oakland, down the street from my house. There's a really awesome brunch place called the Brown Sugar Kitchen. If you ever go to San Francisco, don't go to San Francisco. Go to Oakland. We want your money. Cool. Thank you. I don't know. You guys do questions? Do you guys do questions here?
Do we do what?
You do questions? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll take questions.